So let's kind of summarise, shall we? If you feed a carrier wave, normally measured in megahertz, and an audio wave, normally measured in kilohertz, audio wave means sound wave, my voice perhaps, and you feed that into a thing called a modulator, which is a kind of mixing device, a bit like a food mixer. You put currants and raisins and eggs and butter and milk and flour and stuff into a mixer, and it all gets churned up and a nice cake comes out, albeit unbaked perhaps, but nonetheless a cake mix comes out. So what comes out of the modulator? Well, that's a very good question. And it turns out that if you feed a carrier wave and an audio wave into a modulator, what comes out is an amplitude modulated or amplitude modulation radio wave. However, if we feed a carrier wave and an audio wave into a slightly different device called a balanced modulator, then what comes out is a single sideband radio signal, either upper sideband or lower sideband. So, in a modulator, out comes amplitude modulation. In a balanced modulator, out comes single sideband, either upper sideband or lower sideband. And there'll be no carrier wave with a sideband signal because the carrier wave has been suppressed or removed. This is an amplitude modulated signal. It's going up the screen instead of along it, which is a little unusual. But there's one sideband and there's the other sideband, and if you can just see it, the edges of the sideband are changing very slightly as the fellow talks. So let me just bring it back on to tune it in, and we'll put the sound up and see what it sounds like.
So that is the area we get involved in. Everyone else can get involved too. They can visit our website at departedefrica.ro.
The modulation is happening so quickly. Oh, that's relatively easy to see, that little bit of modulation there. That's varying a bit. But it does happen very, very quickly. Alternatively, we could look at some single sideband transmissions, and you'll see they're nowhere near as wide as this. They're much, much narrower.
That it wasn't your voice at the station, but I knew you were there.
So this is a single sideband station going up the screen. They're much narrower, they're half the width, albeit that the scale of this particular display is slightly different. But you'll notice that the voices don't sound quite as, well, they don't have the same definition. They sound a bit Mickey Mouse-ish. Listen.
And of course, when I heard all of it, I knew that that's where you were, so I wanted to pass along.
And that's one of the downsides of single sideband. Although the bandwidth is narrower and you'll get far more signals within an amateur band, within a range of frequencies assigned for the amateur service, you'll get far more SSB signals than you would amplitude modulated signals. But there's a trade-off, in that is that you don't get the same quality. But the signal will go a lot further because all the energy is being concentrated into a narrow bandwidth of the signal. Let's listen a bit more, shall we?
It doesn't live that far away, so Sandy and I will be over there for Christmas dinner and have a great time like we usually do every year.
Well, very good for you. Good luck to you. Good luck to your Christmas dinner. And that's single sideband and amplitude modulation. They're both amplitude in type of transmission, but one has two sidebands and a carrier wave, and takes up twice the bandwidth. The other is much narrower and doesn't have a carrier. Its carrier has been suppressed. And that, in essence, is the difference between the two types of modulation. Of course, there are many benefits to SSB and there are some downsides. But in essence, the narrower signal of a single sideband transmission, means you can get more stations in an overall amateur radio band of frequencies. So that's the difference. I hope you understand it now. And I hope also my producer, who doubles as my wife, will also agree that that's a wrap. Oh, great. Okay. I have to do what my producer says, you see, because she, as I say, she doubles as my wife, and I won't get any dinner. What is for dinner tonight, by the way?